Chapter 49. Departure. The next morning.
Please be safe,
Cadence asked of her aunts, the first rays of the dawn having been produced by the older of the two alicorns in question but moments earlier.
Not to sound like a broken record, but I still think I should come along.
Celestia sighed.
We've been over this, Cadence. I know, but that doesn't do much to change how I feel.
The three alicorn princesses had just exited the castle, and out into one of the many courtyards dotted around the royal gardens. The entire area was empty. Not a single other soul in sight. Neither had Shining Armor or any of the others come to see them depart, the princesses wanting the event to draw as little attention to itself as possible. The only noise to be heard was a couple of various exotic birds chirping away from within the foliage of the trees around the courtyard. The grass was damp, and the breeze was cool as it swept through the air alongside the manes of the princesses of the sun and moon.
Unfortunately, Cadenza, that is just the way things are to be,
Luna replied to the fretting pink alicorn.
War is a dangerous time, but we needn't take risks that are wholly unnecessary. This whole plan is a risk, Aunt Luna. Which is why you ought to remain, need I remind you? Luna retorted. But neither do we have any intention of failing to the Empress. Should things go to plan, she will be wholly unprepared for a strike at her heart. The element of surprise is on our side. And if things don't go to plan?
Cadence asked sternly, her eyes narrowed.
If she finds out about what we intend, you could end up walking into a trap. It would be most typical, Luna mused. Yes, it is a possibility, but as ponies say, there is only one way to find out. Well, that fills me with confidence,
Cadence deadpanned.
Just promise me that if things get out of hoof, you'll get out of there before your heads are sent back to us with a first-class stamp slapped onto them. I have no desire to become a morbid parcel, my dear niece,
Celestia responded in an assuring manner.
We promise to return to Camelot should our defeat become all but a certainty.
Cadence sighed in relief.
Good. With the battering we've been taking, this war already has enough dead heroes. I never fancied myself a hero, Cadence,
Celestia informed the younger alicorn.
But as a princess of Equestria, I have a duty to protect my subjects from harm. And as both her mentor and a mother figure, I must see Twilight freed. Not to mention the rest of her kind trapped in another's thrall. And any old fool can be a hero,
Luna added in before shooting her elder sister a sly smirk.
But by that logic, my sister is surely a hero already, seeing as there is no greater fool in all the realm.
Celestia rolled her eyes.
I'll remember that the next time you want me to take over some of your duties so you can catch up on your sleep. Being the fool I am, I just might be so inclined to refuse such a request. That was one time, and I had just returned from the moon, Luna protested. And while you make all these threats, I know you could never follow through with them, sister of mine. Is that so? Of course, Luna affirmed. I know a variety of ways to force your hoof. Ways that any villain seeking to manipulate you would die to get their hooves on. The puppy eyes and begging technique only works when it is you, Lulu,
Celestia shot back with a smirk of her own. Luna's eye twitched.
I do not beg, ever!
Cadence stifled a giggle. Watching her Aunt Luna conjure up a retort to Celestia's insinuations. She always enjoyed watching them verbally spar, as those within a sibling rivalry usually did. Especially then, of all times, given that it was just so normal. Just two ponies, two sisters, enjoying each other's company while also doing their all to outwit the other on the teasing front. It was something she and her own sister-in-law had done once or twice, though not to the extent of the royal sisters in the private environment. Cadence had always won, of course. As intimidating as a changeling queen could be, her former full sitter had plenty of dirt to render her as red as a tomato with embarrassment. Thoughts of Twilight shattered the moment of peace and brought reality back to the front, combined with the wind down of the royal sister's teasing, and an air of seriousness reasserting itself. Cadence hoped it wouldn't be the last time she got to see the sisters act like that.
All teasing aside, Luna stated sternly, this is something we cannot ask any pony else to do, and is something we can delay no longer. Luna's right. We must leave before the sun is raised to its highest peak. You can always delay the sun's rising,
Cadence noted.
I think that might be noticed,
Celestia gently replied.
And the day must go on no matter what we must do. As must Equestria.
Cadence nodded.
I'll keep an eye on things while you're away. I just hope you return soon. As do I, Cadence,
Celestia responded.
Come, sister, we must depart. Too many lives are depending on us to delay any longer.
Luna nodded in agreement.
As you say, Tia. Whatever happens, we do it together.
The Princess of the Sun smiled.
That we do. Farewell, Cadence.
Cadence watched as the two princesses unfurled their wings and kicked off into the air. They headed in the direction directly behind the castle and away from the city, the shield of shining armors rapidly approaching. When they impacted its surface, they passed right on through without any consequence, soon becoming but little dots against the pink sky, before disappearing completely. Cadence stared a little while longer, a creeping sense of dread refusing to leave her. Now that the other two alicorns were gone, she only felt all the more uneasy about the whole affair. She looked away and back towards the doorway leading into the castle. Through there, her duties awaited, including the oncoming court she would oversee in Celestia's stead. She would sit on her aunt's throne, safe and sound in the castle, while they were out there risking life and limb to protect her and every pony else in Equestria. Princess Miyamori Cadenza made a decision. A burst of magenta shot forth from Shining Armor's horn, the magic making its way out of the building and impacting the shield encompassing the whole city. He let off a strained sigh as he did so, but then felt his strength return. He could last far longer, and would go on for as long as he was required to. He was in the royal dining room, awaiting his wife to join them for breakfast. He wasn't alone, seeing as the captains of both the Solar and the Lunar Guard were also present, and adorned in their full armors. They had just finished giving him a morning report, confirming that everything had gone smoothly, and that the princesses would safely be on their way to the former council hive, now the Empress's seat of power. Do you think they can do it? Vladimir asked, his metal wing twitching somewhat nervously. I don't wish to doubt them, and I don't, but this isn't exactly a normal situation we're in. They better be, Broadsword responded with a grimace. Let's hope they put their combined 2,000 years worth of experience to good use. Carta says the Empire's a lot older than that, Vladimir pointed out. Then again, maybe that means they'll just be beating on some old mare. I wouldn't count on it, Shining Armor stated, turning to face the pair. And they'll be fine. You know they've been through worse. Yes, that is true, Broadsword admitted. Remember that centaur, Tirek? Vladimir gave a visible shudder. Yeah, getting all the magic sucked out of me is something I'm never going to forget. Glad I didn't have my prosthetic at that time. Would have become a blade-adorned dead weight. Only then the changelings were allies rather than our adversary, Broadsword remarked. This whole situation is fucked. It's been fucked since the day Draco found that damned regalia, Vladimir noted. I'd have said since Queen Crudella's torched Ponyville, Shining Armor added in, sitting down at the table and examining the untouched food laying upon it. Everything's changed since my wedding. Who would have thought wedding bells would bring about a new era? It hasn't been the smoothest of rides, has it? Vladimir remarked. I wonder what Longshot would say to all this. Some crass remark or another, Shining Armor replied. He was always rather blasé about things. Maybe we ought to follow his example then. Vladimir joked, looking at an apple on the table. You mind? I skipped breakfast. Shining Armor nodded. No, go ahead. With a thankful glance, Vladimir picked the apple up and sank his fangs into it. Meanwhile, Broadsword had a pensive look about him. Your shield. Shining responded questioningly. Your shield, he repeated. How long would it hold against the might of the swarm? My wife and son are down here with us, and I'm interested to know exactly how safe they are. Indefinitely, or at least I would hope so, he stated in reply, especially with Cadence's help. Even the princesses would be unable to breach it conventionally. There's a reason that Chrysalis infiltrated and brainwashed me to weaken it. It would take an extended siege to break it. I don't know exactly how long, though. You seem to have a handle on things, then, Vladimir noted. My cutie mark is a shield. I'm quite good with them, Shining Armor pointed out. Twi got magic in general, but I've always been better at conjuring shields than even her. Vladimir looked at the shield containing a 6-pointed star inside. I always thought it represented you protecting your sister. Nah, it's shields in general, Shining explained, before tapping a hoof in thought. Saying that, however, I did happen to get it by protecting Twilight from some bullies in school. But during that time, we would be completely cut off from the outside world, Broadsword stated, rewinding the conversation back to the shield. No supplies in or out? We have plenty in Canterlot to last a long time, you know that, Shining Armor pointed out. But yes, I suppose so. But while they're busy with that, the rest of the EUP could easily hit them from behind and smash their lines, Vladimir said factually. Probably why they haven't hit us already. The EUP is still putting out all the fires all over Equestria, Broadsword noted. If they were to attack any time now, the EUP would be delayed in their mass mobilization and deployment here. But the changelings would be stuck outside. We'd have time, Vladimir rebutted. Unless there's a way they could speed things up? Now you're making me nervous, Shining Armor remarked. I suppose a combined blast from the Queens, seeing what happened at Manhattan, could make a hole in the shield. But it would be sealed again in moments, and I can't imagine that the Queens would have their full strength after exerting that much energy. Vladimir hummed. Well, as long as Cadence is here as a backup, I feel a fair bit safer beneath that shield of yours.
About that,
Princess Cadence sheepishly said as she entered the dining room with urgency in her hooves.
Shiny, a moment, please.
Shining Armor gave her an odd look, but nodded all the same. He wordlessly asked for Broadsword and Vladimir to vacate the room, and they complied to the prince's request professionally. They exited the dining room, electing to move on with their daily duties amidst the war. When they had gone, the door sealed tight, and Shining Armor gave his wife a quizzical expression.
I'm going after them,
Cadence announced, not beating around the bush.
You're perfectly capable of ruling, Shining, and they may need me.
You're kidding, Shining stated in disbelief. I think Celestia and Luna were pretty clear on the matter.
And I'm their equal. I don't need to listen to everything they tell me to do,
Cadence retorted.
And if the Empress is the best way to end this conflict, then I won't be sitting around looking pretty for the courtgoers.
And I recall you hounded me for going with Twilight to Draco's Hive, Shining deadpanned.
At least I'm telling you before, Huff,
Cadence argued back.
And Shiny, I have a bad feeling. Like a really bad feeling about this whole thing. I need to do this.
Shining Armor groaned, but didn't seem willing to argue the point. You've already made up your mind, haven't you? Cadence just nodded firmly in response. Shining sighed, got up from his seat, and promptly pulled his wife into a deep kiss. When all was said and done, Cadence's eyes were left wide with surprise. Honestly, I'd drop everything and come with you in a heartbeat, Shining explained. But thanks to the shield, Canterlot can't afford to spare me. But it can spare you.
Are you sure you'll be fine?
I can keep this going through all kinds of weather, he assured the alicorn, Just go. End this.
Cadence stared at her husband for a few moments before giving him a resolute nod. She reluctantly pulled away from him and strode out of the dining room, soon after finding the nearest exit and taking flight after her aunts. Shining just looked at the dining room's doorway worriedly. Just as Cadence feared that morning was the last time she'd see her aunts, Shining Armor couldn't help but worry for the love of his life.